Hello there. Welcome back to Star Wars in the Galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get our hands on. I'm Eli.
I'm Jacob.
And today, we are back finally. We took a short break, shorter for you than us, because we recorded a bunch ahead of time. But we're back with another episode of Star Wars in the Galaxy, watching all the Star Wars we can get hands on. Episode 170.
It's a big number.
It's a big number for a big day, a day we've been waiting for a long time, as though we wanted to say, a long, long time. Finally, after much discussion about how Jacob loves the show, and I'm going to be honest, how much I love this show, we are finally beginning Star Wars Rebels. Star Wars Rebels will be a 4-season of In a Galaxy journey through the 4 seasons in story of Star Wars Rebels. We are taking no breaks in between. Obviously, special episodes will happen, but season 21 of Star Wars in the Galaxy, which, by the way, welcome to season 21 of Star Wars in the Galaxy. Season 2 will be season 1. Season 2 of season 22 of Star Wars in the Galaxy will be season 2. Season 23 will be season 3, and season 24 will be season 4, all in a row. I know, like, we just got Andor season 2, which technically takes place at the same time as a lot of this stuff. First of all, we need to let that sit for a while anyway. And second of all, we're just going to go straight through it. There's some other stuff that takes place during this time, and we're going to deal with it all in the aftermath of this. We already have some great guests sign up for all 4 seasons. I know, Jacob, I think I can. When we were recording our summaries earlier, I could hear your already just building excitement.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it may not be my absolute favorite Star Wars movie, TV show. It's very, very close though. But Rebels is so personal for me. Rebels has a real place in my heart because it was the first show I watched as it came out. I watched the Clone Wars a little bit after the fact. This was the first time, all the way from season 1 to 4, every week when it dropped, each episode, I was there, and I was the perfect age. And I still am, but when this show came out, I was just absolutely captivated by it. So I'm so excited to go back. I think the last time I rewatched it was in 2020. So it's been a bit since I've seen it. I've seen bits and pieces, but it's been a while since I've seen it in its entirety. So I'm so excited to see how it holds up. This show means a lot to me. It really does. So I'm very excited.
And to be clear, it means a lot to me too. I'm looking at my Star Wars overall ranked on my Letterboxd. Follow me on Letterboxd, OGFan327. And of the shows, this is only behind the Clone Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and its own follow-up series, Ahsoka, for me. So
yeah,
it's not the top, but it's pretty darn close. Yeah. It beats out some shows that I absolutely love, including The Acolyte, Book of Boba Fett, other stuff as well. But yeah, no, without further ado, to get us started, I was thinking I wanted to do something fitting for our first episode of Star Wars Rebels. So she joined us for not technically the first episode we did on the Clone Wars, because we did it in the weird chronological order, but in our coverage of the first episode of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. And she joins us now for the first episodes, for our coverage of the first episodes of Star Wars Rebels. Our most frequent guest on this show, I'm pretty sure, and for good reason. We have
our first,
Meg,
right?
And our first.
And our first, a place of honor.
We have Meg Dowell Mondom of Now This Is Lit, the Star Wars podcast.
Hello, I'm back.
It's very good to have you.
It's great to have you back, and for such a momentous occasion as this, starting Star Wars Rebels. My God, I don't know about. I mean, I already heard Jacob say this, but I don't know about you, Meg. There is so much nostalgia for this show for me, and there is so much. This show, just with the musical cues alone, I wrote them down in my notes. I might mention them throughout the episode, but there are so many original trilogy motifs used at just the right moment, mixed in with, of course, the original score. It just hit.
Yeah.
What's your overall experience with Star Wars Rebels? I know right before we were recording this, we booked you for another episode of Star Wars way down the line that I know means a lot to you. What is your experience overall with this show?
Oh, that there's so much good in this show, and it was really hard to watch these first 2 episodes and not just continue watching because we're like in the middle of watching so many things, and I'm like, we can't, like, we looked at each other and I'm like, we can't keep going. We can't rewatch this entire show, but it's so easy to. So like I came late to the Clone Wars. I think I started watching the Clone Wars. I'd seen like episodes of it here and there, like when it was on Cartoon Network, like I would catch an episode here and there. I'd seen enough of it to like know what it was about. But I think it was was it in 2017 maybe? I finally was like, I'm gonna go just watch the whole thing, which at the time was just through season 6. And I did. And I was like, okay, like I also know there's this show called Star Wars Rebels, but I don't know anything about it. So I think I posted like on Facebook and I was like, does anyone know if this show is good? And I think it took until 2018 for me to finally start watching it. And I mean, I watched the whole thing probably in a couple months, just like watching a couple episodes a day or whatever it was. And it just grabbed me. It grabbed me. And I finished the finale on 4th of July. So I wasn't working. So I was like, I'm just going to power straight through this. And I finished it. And I was like, well, now I don't want to do anything else the rest of the day because I'm broken. I'm shattered.
Yeah.
This show is just... I've always loved animated shows. Like I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like I could name a million animated shows that I love. And so like going into something that's animated but also Star Wars, I'm like, I didn't know what to expect. Especially having watched Clone Wars, I'm like, is it gonna be as good? I wanted to do the thing where you like try to compare like before you've seen the other thing. Like, is it gonna be as magical? And it's for me like the top animated Star Wars show, possibly still the top Star Wars show, even coming right off of Andor, which also, I will say, we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, going from the end of Andor straight into these first 2 episodes, I was like, it's the same thing, but so different. In such an interesting way.
100%.
It really stood out to me when it was the first episode when the Imperial officer, they like stopped the guy because he's carrying fruit. Right,
because they could.
I was gonna talk about
because
that.
They could, and like the way that they show, like, oh, we can do anything we want, is like, oh, we're gonna arrest you for treason because you're trying to sell fruit, and that's such an interesting contrast to like Andor, where like there's an entire genocide, and I'm like, they're doing such a good job. We see this like in like books too, between like adult novels and like middle grade novels, where like the same events are happening, the same messages are getting across, just shown in such a different way, and I love that so much.
Yeah, and like obviously not exactly the same, but Andor season 2 shows Jacob hasn't seen Andor season 2 yet, but like I'm not like I don't think I'm spoiling anything big. Jacob is
I've been waiting to watch it with my dad. I was away from him for a long time.
Jacob is caught up to Star Wars. Jacob is at Star Wars release right now around January, February of 2024.
Yeah, I'm not.
So,
yeah,
I've been like bugging him. I've decided to make it my personal life goal right now to, no matter what, like get him to watch The Acolyte.
I will. I have every intention of watching The Acolyte, Eli. Rest assured, I have every intention of watching The Acolyte.
I know you have.
I've had a busy spring. I've had a busy spring, but this summer it's gonna happen.
I'm excited for you to watch Acolyte. I'm excited for you to watch season 2 of Andor.
I gotta watch the other one too.
I am.
Yeah, Skeleton Crew. There's so much stuff that I'm missing right now. For you to watch Skeleton Crew. I like that series is good. I liked it a lot less than quite a few people did. But either way, what I was gonna say about Rebels that I think is so important is this is the first piece of Star Wars media, like season 1 was, produced under Disney. On-screen Star Wars media produced under Disney. And I cannot think of a single let's take out the films. Honestly, but even like let's take out I'll say this. Let's take out the sequel trilogy films made after let's take out the sequel trilogy for a second. Every piece of on-screen Star Wars media, I think, that I can think of since this has had influence from Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah.
Like I'm struggling 100%. To like, you could argue Skeleton Crew is maybe an exception from that, but like that's really the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
Every single one. Vader Immortal, like something like Star Wars Resistance.
Yeah.
maybe not Star Wars Resistance, but I would argue in terms of tropes and stuff too. Actually, Star Wars Resistance, but of course, since her Rogue One extends into Andor, extends into all of the Grogu saga shows, Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, again, Skeleton Crew being that one exception, extends into Bad Batch. Almost certainly will extend into Maul Shadow Lord. Extend into Solo, I think, through just some stuff with even this episode with Kessel and with Maul at the end, obviously, just because we know what's going on with him now. I think that to measure this show's impact is almost unmeasurable, honestly. There's a level of, and specifically because this was the big test for how was Disney going to handle Star Wars,
right?
Before even Force Awakens, this was the test.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize. I remember I was watching there was of course no Disney Plus back then. I remember I bought season 1 off I believe it was the iTunes store at the time, and what was I gonna say? And I was just so enthralled by the series, and I was so excited for where I was gonna go next. But enough talk about the series in general. Why don't we get to Spark of Rebellion?
In the Spark of Rebellion, we open with a prologue. We see on sometime after the fall of the Jedi Order, presumably right before the start of the main events, we see the Grand Inquisitor on the bridge of a Star Destroyer talking to Darth Vader on a hologram. Darth Vader tells him the Jedi are all but extinct, but the Emperor has foreseen a new threat rising against him. The children of the Force, he says, they must not become Jedi. Vader says that this is the Emperor's command, and the Inquisitor ensures him that he will do everything in his power to ensure that these children of the Force do not become a new generation of Jedi. After this, the main episode actually starts, and we see Ezra Bridger on the Outer Rim world of Lothal, 14 years after the rise of the Empire, so 5 BBY. He's on an abandoned communications tower when he looks up and sees a massive Star Destroyer flying over him straight towards downtown capital city of Lothal. He gets on his speeder bike and zooms into town. We find Ezra in town in the market where he sees Commandant Oresco and Taskmaster Grint, 2 recurring characters, 2 low-level Imperial officers, harassing a Yogan fruit seller in the marketplace. When the seller tries to speak up and speak his mind against the evils of the Empire, saying that things were better before the Empire showed up on Lothal, Grint and Oresco decide to arrest the man for treason. However, Ezra makes his way through, posing as, or just being himself as a kid, just looking for a couple of spare Yogan fruits. However, he manages to snag one of their comlinks and ends up using it to fake an Imperial emergency, to fake a code red in the town square, thereby forcing the 2 officers to let the Yogan seller go. Ezra climbs up to a rooftop and is watching the unfolding Imperial confusion, where Grint and Oresco have rushed to the scene of the supposed emergency, only to find that everything is in order. However, he soon feels something call out to him through the Force. Of course, he doesn't know it's the Force yet. And he looks at Kanan Jarrus, who feels it too and looks back at him. But Ezra ducks out of sight just in time and realizes that the Phoenix crew, who does not know yet, Sabine, Zeb, they are there, and they seem to be planning some sort of heist. Sabine blows up a speeder bike, and in the ensuing chaos, all the Phoenix, or all the Ghost crew members who are there grab the speeder bikes and drive away. In the midst of all this, Ezra decides to make a play for some of the crates that they are trying to steal, and he ends up on a speeder bike as well. A chase ensues. Zeb and Kanan are chasing Ezra out of town down this highway on their own bikes. Kanan manages to catch up to Ezra and stop him. However, a TIE fighter flies in and blows up Kanan's speeder bike, allowing Ezra to get away. However, Ezra quickly regrets his decision, as he is now being chased down by the TIE fighter. But The ghost of the ghost crew, of course, comes in, blows up the TIE fighter, and Kanan says, "Hey kid, want a ride?" Ezra manages to make a very impressive leap with the crate that he still has, bringing it on board the ghost, and the ghost flies into space to avoid the Imperial TIE fighters, which are now hot on its tail. Meanwhile, Ezra is inside, and he tries to escape from Zeb's protection or custody. Zeb is watching over Ezra, and Ezra tries to escape. He ends up in the vent system. However, he falls down out of the vents, and that is where he meets Sabine as well. So now he's being introduced to the crew, and they manage to jump into hyperspace and avoid the TIE fighters after blowing up a few of them. After this, Ezra is introduced to all the crew. He meets Hera, he meets Zeb, he's met everyone at this point, and he learns that they are going back to Lothal, having lost their Imperial pursuers. They're going back to sell the crates for profit to support their operation. So they end up back on Lothal in a different location this time, in Vijago's hideout, and they're going to sell the crates to Vijago. Ezra asks if he can see what's in the crates that they're selling, and Zeb says, "If I told you, I'd have to kill you, but I might just kill you anyway." So Zeb and Sabine take Ezra with some other crates that they stole, these food crates that they also stole. He takes them to a Tarkin town, as it's called, a very rundown town filled with farmers who were displaced from their land during the Imperial takeover, presumably so the Imperials could use the land for their extensive strip mining operations all over Lothal, their mineral mining operations. So they give out a lot of food. Ezra is overwhelmed and struck by the gratitude of the citizens of the Tarkin town, although he says that he did not do anything. Back in Vijago's hideout, in his area, Kanan and Hera are negotiating the price of the blasters, and they decide to take less money in exchange for intel on the Wookiees. They're a group of Wookiees that they know that have been taken prisoner and are going to be put into slavery. They don't know where they're going to be at. So they decide to go after these Wookiees, and they dock while pretending to be bounty hunters. The crew of the Ghost docks with the transport that supposedly has the Wookiees. However, when they get on the transport, Hera realizes that their communications are jammed, and an Imperial Star Destroyer drops out of hyperspace in front of them. So they realize that it's a trap. Hera convinces Ezra to run onto the Imperial ship, to run onto the transport, to warn the others that it's a trap before it's too late. Ezra warns them just in time, but they get trapped in a big firefight against Imperial stormtroopers and Agent Kallus, who is present as well. And while the rest of the crew escape, Ezra is captured and taken back onto the Star Destroyer. While he is there, he does manage to escape in fairly short order, but not before being interrogated somewhat by Agent Kallus. The crew of the Ghost, however, decides to come back to rescue Ezra, even though they know that the Imperials will be waiting for them and they know that it's a trap. They do come back for him, and they successfully rescue him, in fact. So Ezra is now back on the Ghost, and they are headed for Kessel. At this point, Ezra was called by the Force into Kanan's room, where he discovers Kanan's holocron and lightsaber. Now, Kanan comes in and makes him relinquish the lightsaber which he was playing around with. However, Ezra does manage to sneak the holocron out and pickpocket it for himself. However, Kanan says, "Now we'll see," to Hera, indicating that he may have wanted him to find the holocron as a test to see if he was truly strong in the Force, as Kanan had suspected. So after they go, I missed another thing. Yeah, in this holocron arc as well, it's in the prison cell. It's in the Imperial prison cell on the Star Destroyer that Ezra is able to do some form of meditation, and without realizing it, he is able to open the holocron. So he opens the holocron. They make it out to Kessel. However, as they're rescuing the Wookiees, Agent Kallus and the Empire catches up to them once again. And in order to escape, Kanan reveals his identity as a Jedi, uses his lightsaber, uses his force powers to help them escape. And they go back to Lothal, where Kanan offers Ezra a choice. He says you can go back to your old life, or you can come with us and you can learn the ways of the Jedi and the ways of the Force, and I will train you because you are strong in the Force. And of course, Ezra says yes. Ezra accepts and decides to go with the crew of the Ghost.
In Droids in Distress, or as I call it, the second pilot of Star Wars Rebels, the Ghost is at the end of a mission being gone awry, chased by a bunch of TIE fighters from a mission failed again, and they're realizing they're low on pretty much everything: food, fuel, supplies, and they gotta take some kind of job to keep the lights on. Kanan suggests another mission from the arms dealer Sikatro Vijago, which they have to take another deal with Sikatro Vijago, which turns out to be a deal to transport a crate of weapons to him. They do not know what it is. These weapons are on the planet, are being intercepted at an Imperial shipping lane on the planet of Garel, so they board a transport with Imperial Minister Tua. Seeing an opportunity, Sabine mistranslates an Aqualish's message to an Aqualish ambassador's message to Minister Tua about exactly which port the weapons will be arriving. On that flight as well is the intrepid droid duo C-3PO and R2-D2. The reason that C-3PO cannot translate for Minister Tua is because Chopper forced him to be put in the back with all of the other droids per Imperial regulations. They get to Garel. The Ghost crew intercepts the shipment of weapons while the Imperials go to the wrong port. When all of this is realized, the Imperials move to intercept the Ghost crew at the correct port, but the Ghost crew successfully gets the weapons onto their ship, escaping Imperial custody. They then realize that these weapons are not just any weapons, they're T7 ion disruptors, which are revealed to be the weapons used in the genocide of Lasan, Zeb's homeworld, that to completely reduce most of his species to atoms by the Empire, led by Agent Alexander Callis of the ISB. They get to Lothal to sell it to Vijago, but C-3PO alerts the Empire to their location, forcing a standoff with stormtroopers, ATDP walkers, and, of course, Agent Alexander Callis himself. Callis and Zeb engage in a heated standoff where Callis reveals he was responsible for the genocide of the Lasat on Lasan, however long ago that was. We don't actually know. But R2-D2 shows a bit more of a rebellious spirit than C-3PO, at least on the surface does, and he helps. He comes up with the idea for the Ghost crew to overload the T7 ion disruptors because Vijago had escaped. If the Empire can't have them, then nobody should. They were banned by the Senate, although, when things are banned by the Senate, we that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I'm looking at UKX security droids, not battle droids. But the explosion of the ion disruptors caused everything to get rattled. Zeb and Callis both fall down, but Callis gets up easily, defeating Zeb, and is about to kill him when Ezra lashes out with the Force and delivers a strong Force push to knock Callis off his feet, saving Zeb's life. In the aftermath, the Ghost crew successfully escapes, and Kanan officially offers Ezra the beginning of Jedi training. Afterwards, they deliver the droids back to their owner, whose name is never revealed, but come on, it's Bail Organa. On his ship, the Tantive 4, where it's revealed that that the droids were on a spy mission for Senator Organa to hear about the transportation of these so-called illegal weapons, and Bill takes an interest in these rebels, which will be followed up on, but not for quite a while. All right. So this is another general conversation, but I feel like to have this conversation at the beginning and specifically for these episodes is important. I want to talk about the art style.
Okay.
Rebels' art style is very distinctive. It is, and I like it. I'm going to put on the record, I really like Rebels' art style. However, since Family Reunion and Farewell, the final episode of Star Wars Rebels, we've never seen this art style again.
Yeah.
And I think it's and Disney and not Disney, Lucasfilm was obviously dipping back into this nostalgic Clone Wars animated style for season 7, and then they were like, oh, this is working for season 7, let's do it for Bad Batch, and now we're here, and then they're like, oh, this is working, let's keep improving on it, and now we're at Maul Shadow Lord next year. But what are both of your overall thoughts about this art style, and like, would you like to see it continue compared to Clone Wars art style and stuff like that?
I mean, I love it, and when I went straight from Clone Wars to Rebels, it really stood out as like, oh, this is like not just a different show, but like the entire look is different. And I think that really centers you in like, oh, like this is not going to be the same as other Star Wars that you've seen before. And I think that's a positive thing. I think a lot of it does stand out. And like you look in like the art books for Rebels and things like that. And it's like, it's just so interesting how all of it came together. And we haven't had anything like this since. And I think I'm okay with that. I think you have gotten like Clone Wars style like animation in like now multiple shows, and we're not 100% sure what Shadow Lord's going to look like. It could look a little different. It could look largely the same because it is kind of like
I've seen the leaked trailer from Celebration.
Okay.
And it looks like it from what I remember, it looks like a way more stylized version.
Okay.
Like it feels like a little bit more like arty, not like the other ones were arty, but like literal like painted art. But it ultimately derives from the Clone Wars style.
Yeah.
Just like that.
I think like because Rebels is so unique and we haven't gotten something quite like it, and we might not, leave the art style with Rebels, right? It's such an important part of the show. It kind of like is almost in some ways its own character in the show, because it's so like when you think of Rebels, you think of the art style among other things. I think if we never got that exact thing again, that's fine for me, because then it's like anything in the future, you're trying. It's not just Star Wars trying to do the same thing over and over again, right? Like I think we need to get away from that a little bit in like a good way. Like take the really good things that we've gotten in Star Wars recently and like build that out, but also make each new thing its own unique thing. And so like do different art styles. Like if you leave the Rebels art style with Rebels and don't do anything exactly like that again, cool. But I guess we'll see. I guess you never know.
Jig, your thoughts?
I concur. I think that the fact that the animation style has not, taken hold and sort of been used in a bunch of other shows the way that the Clone Wars has, I don't see that as an indictment of the art style at all. I know that it's more controversial. I know that it's more divisive. I like it. I like the art style a lot. I think that it was a little bit of a leap, and a well-deserved leap that really paid off to go from, this was the point too at which there was only one Star Wars show at a time. This was the point at which this like we have to remember. We have to remember
that point pretty soon.
Yeah, we have to remember this is 2015 is very, very different from 2025 in terms of how much Star Wars we're getting, how it feels. Like this show in many ways, and I think the reason why it was controversial in many ways was this show was seen as the replacement to Clone Wars in terms of this is going to be the animated show for the foreseeable future. And I think that sort of it invited
And a lot of that was,
invited
of course,
comparison.
involved with Clone Wars cancellation, and that was Disney and the Disney purchase and stuff. And of course, that all got fixed, and we got season 7, and so now we can look at it without the controversy.
Yeah, and I think I do agree that I think the first couple of seasons, especially season 1, like there are moments in this where it looks a little bit janky, maybe not janky, but a little bit. It can be sparse, it can be bare bones. It can feel plasticky, at times. But didn't the Clone Wars as well in those early seasons? And in my mind, that doesn't take away from the charm. That doesn't take away from the charm of those seasons, even of the Clone Wars movie. That doesn't take away from the charm of those one bit, in my opinion. And I think we kind of have to take it as it is. And I'm just so grateful and happy that they did such a good job ultimately of taking Ralph McQuarrie's original concept art and taking that feel and that design language and turning it into a whole world.
Yeah.
So I will be totally happy if we never get an art style like this again, if we never get the Rebels art style again. I think this is what Rebels is. This is the Rebels identity. And I think that's only for the best right now, that is the way it is. And I can't complain because I really do like this animation style.
Yeah.
Like even though like the human aspect of it gets a little funky sometimes, it's gorgeous.
Yeah. No,
the
there's
planets,
some great
the backgrounds, Lothal, Garel, gorgeous.
Yeah, there's some great stuff in this animation style. Like very much, I feel like for everything I like about this animation style above Clone Wars, like there's a vice versa. Like I don't know what it was, like R2's design in this episode, like took like, it wasn't like it took me out of it. I just like constantly was like noticing it. Maybe it was just in comparison to Chopper because we see him all the time, where it was like that doesn't like that. I noticed that from, and like I personally, and I know this is like not an incredibly controversial take, like when we see holograms of Anakin, like God, it looks bad. But if I were to say that Yoda and Dooku's designs in the Clone Wars were good, I would also be lying. Because I never liked either of those either. And I think Yoda's Rebels design, for example, is like far, far superior to his Clone Wars design. I don't know what they were doing with the checkers on his face in Clone Wars. Like I don't know what the hell was going on with that. But no, the Rebels the Rebels animation style, I think, is very good. And I think has some involves produces some great moments that we wouldn't be able to get with the Clone Wars style, and vice versa, of course. But yeah, I just wanted to, and like Jacob said, I actually really think that this animation style is already even in these first few episodes, it's already better than the first season of CCW. If you look at that opening shot of when they zoom in on a Star Destroyer tower, it's lit extremely subtly. There's details. There's all this stuff. Not necessarily that there weren't details and good lighting in season 1 of the Clone Wars, but it wasn't quite there yet. But yeah, I think we should get into all of this crazy stuff. We have our prologue here, which I think I kind of retroactively thought of in my mind as kind of like a crawl for this series. And of course it's Vader. That's what I like. And both of these episodes is we start with I called these episodes in my note the first pilot and the second pilot.
Yeah.
Where we start with familiar faces both times. We start with Vader in 1 at the beginning of 1 and 3PO and R2 at 2. To orient us with these new characters, to see how these characters interact with ones we already know. And yeah, so we have the Jedi Knights are all but destroyed, and yet your task is not complete, Inquisitor. The Emperor has foreseen a new threat rising against him. The children of the Force, they must not become Jedi. There's a bit more of an extended conversation there, but that's the important stuff right there. And I first want to say that I think this is the first piece of Star Wars I've watched since the great James Earl Jones passed away, with him in it.
Yeah.
And so rest in peace, good sir. Thank you for all you've done for this great character. And of course, he was in this show as Vader.
Yeah.
I think this was some of his last voice performance as Vader. Like new, because Obi-Wan Kenobi was obviously done with some very fancy technology, which was of course James Earl Jones, but not really James Earl Jones.
Mhm.
Yeah, this I think Rogue One was coming out around the same time as Rebels Season 2. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think this was some of the last new work that James Earl Jones did for Vader.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think what I was thinking about, like, is this sets the stage for the show. What is the future of the Force, no pun intended, under an empire intent on eradicating it or bending to its will? How do people find light, spiritually or just generally, in a time of such darkness? And I put in my notes like I was saying earlier about Andor. I was thinking about like how I feel like Andor and Rebels are kind of like a dyad, sort of, where Andor is the, I'm gonna throw the buzz phrase around, dark and gritty side of the rebellion, whereas Rebels is the more hopeful side, where, like, I'm light spoilers for Andor season 2 from Jacob. I'm sorry. We see those idiots at the beginning of in the first arc of season 1 working for Maya Pei, and we're like, how the hell are they gonna come up with something that's gonna take down the Empire? The answer is in this series.
Yep.
And yeah, the last thing I was gonna say about this is that I think it's really fascinating. The Empire has won. They've achieved, in the Sith specifically of the Empire and the Inquisitors have achieved their main goal. There are practically no Jedi out there. Least of all, none of them really willing to stand up to the Empire right now, or none that they know of, like on a large scale. And yet, it's still not enough. They still have to root out the children. They're afraid of literal children who they've made it exceptionally hard to get any instruction in the Force. They're still scared of them. Vader is still scared of them. The Inquisitors, it's still their goal. We see them doing this in seasons 1 and 2. They're still terrified of these children of the Force. Not to mention, of course, the ones they don't know about on Alderaan and Tatooine, respectively.
Right.
Any other thoughts either of you have about this prologue?
Yeah. I mean, I know why the prologue is here, and yet I'm also curious. I also feel like I don't fully understand. I mean, we know, it's sort of telling us more about the show, introducing us to the concept of the Inquisitors, setting some stakes, putting us, letting us ground ourselves within the wider Star Wars galaxy, within the wider context of the story at this time. And at the same time, we don't see the Inquisitor again until the very end. Why not wait? I'm a little bit, I'm curious as to what you guys think. And Eli, you kind of very eloquently, sort of explained, I think, what you think, and I do agree with you. But I'm still curious, why open with this? Why not open with Ezra? It's interesting for us to open with the antagonist that we don't come back to for a long time. I don't dislike it though; it's really good.
I mean, I think with this kind of thing, you have to these shows like Rebels specifically, like it's made for kids, but anyone can watch it. Like we all know that. Like we're adults and we're watching it and we enjoy it. But like I also try to like remind myself that like they do have to at certain points, especially like for example in the very beginning of the show, the opening shots, the opening scene, have to especially capture the attention of the kids that are watching. How do you do that? How do you get a kid to like immediately lock in? You either Darth Vader is there, or you introduce some kind of familiar character or some kind of villain where they're like, oh, like he's a bad guy, like what's he gonna do, right? And like that is like the perfect way to get anyone who's younger to watch, because
That's a
then you
good
go
point.
into, then you meet the heroes and then they're like, oh, like they're gonna fight the villains and they're gonna win, right? So if you went straight just into Ezra, like that's interesting, I want to know who he is, but a kid's gonna be like, oh, like I don't know who this character is this still Star Wars? We're on a desert planet, I'm bored, right? Like that's not necessarily gonna happen, but like there has to be this kind of like, the prologue is there, I feel like, in a lot of ways, because like you have to get that hook of like, oh, this is going to be really good, I need to know what happens next.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. It's just setting the stakes.
Yeah.
I think Meg is right, and I think like to sort of add on slightly and a slightly different point, but like I also think for fans of all ages, Inquisitors existed in Legends, but they were nowhere near as vital to the Empire as they were in canon. So nobody really knew what the Inquisitors were before this.
Yeah.
And so if you introduce if you remove it, Callus calls Quizzy at the end.
That's true. It does lend a little more weight to that moment.
People's natural reaction would be like, who the hell is that?
Yeah.
And by Vader, somebody we know and fear, passing down the mandate to the Grand Inquisitor, it lends itself to that when the Inquisitor comes in, believe that we'll cover that next episode.
Yeah.
We know that he's the enforcer for what Vader's doing.
Yeah.
That's
wait,
how I say it.
Callus is talking to the guy who's taking orders directly from Darth Vader. Yeah, you're right. Like you're like, oh wait, this is
taking orders directly from Darth Vader. Yeah. This is my favorite meme I've ever made. Legitimately. I love this series. Love this shot. I will post this again on Blue Sky with this episode. Hey, it's the shot from Grand Inquisitor and Vader looking down at Reva in Part 5, and Quizzy is saying, "Hey, me and the homies saw you from across the bar, and we really dig your vibe, third sister." I never get enough of that. Very few opportunities to bring it up, and I thought this was as perfect of time ever. But of course, we get down to the tower, the Roost, I think it's called, that infamous tower. It's so interesting at the beginning of this journey, looking at that tower again, knowing where it will, what it will witness.
Yeah.
Through all these years. Yeah. Especially, this is the first time, of course, I've gone through Rebels since Ahsoka.
Right.
So that series adds all sorts of context to this now. Yeah, now I feel like that's another symbol of hope in this series. It's high. It's so high above everything. There's that vision, and obviously we'll talk about that when we get to it way down the line, that Ezra has in season 2 of what I assumed would be the future, where Lothal, instead of this like vibrant place still crushed by the weight of Imperial oppression, is this gleaming, shining city on a hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And although he doesn't get to see it at first, we know it does eventually become that.
Yeah.
But for now, it is still looking out over the mess that the Empire has made of this planet. And
they've made a pretty...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, Ezra looks out as the Star Destroyer passes overhead. I feel like this is kind of his binary sunset moment. Like, bleaker than Luke's, yes, but, Ezra also knows Imperial oppression in a way that Luke doesn't.
Yeah.
Luke even says something, like, nothing bad's ever happened to me here. But Ezra, knows firsthand the Empire took his parents from him, as we'll find out. And the Empire is directly impacting Lothal in a way it really didn't impact Tatooine.
Yeah, Ezra's been fighting and scraping every day to survive. That's what informs kind of...
Yeah.
That's what informs his every move at this point.
Yeah.
And then we cut to maybe, like, my favorite hallmark of this show that I forgot how much I loved, which is we cut to it and then immediately. Although this episode's weird because it doesn't go to a black background, it does the logo over. We get the logo, dun 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 dun, dun and that's the intro. And back into the episode. Cold open intro, short intro, back into the episode. It's actually something I kind of missed with Andor, honestly. Like Andor does the opening intro, which is long and drab and like it's intense, but it's also like depressing, just like the series. And then it goes right in with nothing, and I kind of miss of course this happened with, and actually it didn't happen with Bad Batch either. It did happen with Rebels and Resistance did this, and I love it. Which it's like the daytime like TV conventions stuff like that, where you do your cold open, then like 2-3 minutes in, get the intro, and then you do the rest of the episode. I forgot how much I like that.
Yeah, I like it too.
We get the tease of what the episode is going to be, and then we see how it plays out. Yeah. Anything either of you have for everything we have before the intro?
Not really. I think it starts to really pick up as soon as we get Oresco and Grint and the Yogan fruit incident.
Yeah. Jacob, why don't you talk about the Yogan? Well, we already talked about it a little bit, but
yeah. But this whole this is a pretty fast-paced episode. Like once it goes, I was having trouble figuring out where to pause it.
Moves
kind
as
of
a
take
clip.
notes. Like
Rebels is always pretty fast-paced, but this is different because it obviously has so much to set up. You need to set up Imperial oppression firsthand on a world like Lothal. Obviously, you need to set up all 6 characters that nobody had ever seen before, that we'd only got an introduction to in those shorts that we forgot to incorporate into our schedule. And of course, you gotta introduce Callus as well. Like, you got a lot to do.
Yeah.
What are you going to say, Jacob, though?
I don't know. I mean, Oresco and Grint just straight up bullying random people in the capital city market. Like, it's played very lightly, obviously, because this show is, as you said, Meg, it can be watched by everyone, but it is for kids. Mm-hmm. But coming out of Andor season 1, which we had watched for the podcast right before this, it was almost jarring, seeing how quickly they arrest this man, this seller, just for saying a couple of negative words about the Empire. And I think, this time around, I felt a little bit more, just because of my own age and life journey and what we'd been watching before and all sorts of other factors. I felt much more attuned to that aspect of it. Yeah. And it made it all the more impressive what the rebels were doing, and also just how confident or reckless Ezra was being in this episode. I mean, even, it's a younger show. It has a lighter tone, but the way Ezra just kind of waltzes this way and says, all right, shoot out, bombs going off, the Empire is involved. I'm just going to steal this mystery crate on this speeder. Surely this will end well for me. Surely nothing bad will happen to me. That was kind of interesting, but I was very, I don't know. I was kind of captivated by this first sequence. It really is very, very exciting. And I mean, especially, once you get into, Ezra feeling the Force connection with Kanan, that's one of my favorite moments, with that little string part, that little motif, and they like the Force sound effect that they kind of use to hint at it for the audience. Oh gosh, it's so much fun. And to think that Ezra is supposed to be only 14 during this.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And what
it's great.
I was gonna say, damn it, now I just lost it. Oh yeah, this is what I was gonna say. I'm not saying that the Empire wouldn't have arrested that vendor otherwise. However, something public order resentencing directive, something Aldhani, something.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's the same year. We don't
ties
know that
together.
Wasn't a factor.
It ties together.
So good. I also love how they really like, in this really like fast-paced, intense scene where like Ezra's stealing the crates and then one by one they try to like take them back. It's also doing the work of trying to introduce you to who the characters are as quickly as possible. As you get a little bit of Sabine, Zeb, Kanan, and it's like, oh, like now you want to know like who are like, because Ezra's asking who are these people, what are they doing? But we're asking the same question at the same time. Because we talked about this a little already, is like the episode, especially this first one, has to do so much work in terms of like introducing everyone, but also at the same time making you invested in learning more about who they are at the same time. And so like this way of doing it where like he's meeting them one by one and like having very short interactions with them, but in a way where you can't wait to like come face to face with them again and know like what they're doing and who they are. It's perfect.
Yeah. It works really well. Like the way Sabine says, like, for example, like if the big guy catches you, he'll end you. Wait, which big guy? What? Why? What is end? What? Wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, I need to know more.
Literally,
and
my notes.
And we're even thinking the same thing about Ezra.
In a row. Literally, my notes for lines in a row is, "Hey, look, there he is. Our first glance at him. Oh, there's the other guy. There she is. Oh, and then like, oh, there's our first line from Tia Sakar. There's our first line from Z Blum. Like, it goes in such rapid succession, as Meg said. Yeah. It's very efficient storytelling.
Yeah.
And like and that's the other thing that I appreciated about specifically Spark of Rebellion. We don't really get any insight in these episodes into Zeb or Hera or Chopper or Sabine or really or Callus or like, but we all get introduced. We know their basic thing.
Yeah.
There will be time to dive deep into them more later. But we develop Kanan quite a bit. We develop Ezra quite a bit. We develop the Empire as a force quite a bit. But it never feels like it never feels like any of the characters, even though they're not exploited, are like shallow or anything. It's just we haven't had time to explore them yet, which I think is fascinating. I forgot And this is almost certainly because I'm so used to the version of him that's not this. I forgot that Ezra is an asshole at the start of this.
Yeah.
I forgot how just like kind of scummy he is. Like I remembered a little bit of it, like that specific great delivery from Taylor Ray. Bye guys. As he rushes along on that speeder bike is so great, but I forgot that like
he's kind of
looking out for number one.
Yeah.
He is like of course we've used this metaphor to death, and far be it for us to call the Middle Eastern coded guy this, but he is Space Aladdin. They've talked about him as Space Aladdin.
Yeah.
And I think of course his journey is far, far, far different than Aladdin's is. But to start him off at around the same place, I think is a really fascinating idea of this guy who steals to survive for himself is, of course, as Hera says later in the episode, if all you fight for is yourself, then your own life is worth nothing. And how Ezra comes to adopt that throughout this season, but, of course, throughout this show as well.
Yeah, I mean, he does really start out, like, I kind of forgot almost just how sort of cocky and jaunty and silly they make him. There's a lot of little two finger salutes and this and that. I'm kind of like, damn, Ezra, damn. But same for Kanan, honestly. I forgot, I forgot kind of what a I don't know what the right word is. I forgot how kind of unserious, how much swagger Kanan has, where he zooms back with the speeder. How's it going? He said before taking out stuff.
Yeah.
I surrender. Just kidding. Like,
just kidding.
I think tonally it's interesting. It makes sense though. It makes sense and it's enjoyable. But I was unprepared. I was unprepared for that, and I do think that maybe for Ezra, it makes sense. For Kanan, I don't think we ever see him like this. We never quite see him like this again. Like compared to the rest of Rebels, even season 1, it's a little wild how capricious, I guess, Kanan kind of gets in this episode.
it's so nice to, especially for Jacob, who like hasn't read, not to speak for you as much, but like I'm assuming hasn't read like the books in a while, and myself, who's also incredibly behind. It's so nice to have a guest who has read so much of stuff, because I'm about to reference stuff that I know happens in A New Dawn, but you can help me with greater detail. From what I understand, of course, we see Kane in Bad Batch, the scared little child running away from Order 66, and then of course we see Kane in here. But like in A New Dawn, he's like a drunk. He's like, he's not in a good place, right?
Yeah, he's very much like, I'm gonna fly this ship because it's how I make money. I don't want to get involved with anything or anyone. I had a home. I had friends. I had, the closest thing to a family he'd had at that point in the Jedi Order. That's gone. Everything fell apart. I want nothing to do. I want nothing to do with this galaxy anymore. All I'm trying to do is just get through one day at a time.
Yeah.
And it takes the progression of that book, meeting Hera and like all the other things that happen. It's been a while since I read it, but like those are the main like major points for him to kind of start to get closer to the point where he's like, okay, maybe there are things that are worth fighting for. But even like in this early on in Rebels, like he's come a long way, but he's certainly not like where he is by the time we get to season 4. He's still got a lot.
Oh, absolutely not.
That's a good point. He is very much like the cowboy Jedi.
Yeah.
Sort of a little bit of a renegade still.
Yeah, still like you get a better version of him
Cowboy
here.
Jedi.
Like...
Gee, I wonder who created this series. That's the other thing. That's the other thing I love about this series is at certain points you can just see, all right, Dave. All right, we get it, Dave.
Yeah.
We get you making your entire 4th season kind of about wolves. We get it. we see you. And then of course he makes Ahsoka, which is the most Filoni thing to ever Filoni in the history of ever. And I mean that I'd say a good 94, 95% in a good way. But that's actually, I think, my highlight of these 2 episodes. And not that I ever disliked this character. I always liked this character, but I have a feeling the thing I'm going to take away from this show, this is my 3rd watching of this show all the way through, starting on right now. Hera Syndulla. I love her so much. Vanessa Marshall is just always doing top-notch work on this. If you haven't already, I haven't actually gotten a chance to do this, but obviously right before we're starting Rebels, I remember I posted on Blue Sky as I found out that this was going to be happening at the same time as we're doing Rebels. Of course, some people far more close to the show than us are doing Rebels.
Oh, yeah.
That being Vanessa Marshall, Tia Sarkar, and Taylor Gray on Pod of Rebellion.
Oh, wow.
Doing a rewatch episode by episode. That's the thing, is we started later than them, but we're gonna eventually get ahead of them because they're doing 1 episode per episode and we're doing multiple. Wow. So, but yeah, Vanessa Marshall. That's all to say. Vanessa Marshall as Hera, fantastic character. I love what Mary Elizabeth Winstead's done with the character. I'm excited to see more. Mm-hmm. I love Hera Syndulla so much.
And she just gets better and better as the show goes on. But even like for her to be like at this level already in the 1st episode, because like, well, you get to like, we haven't gotten there yet, but you get to where she's kind of like, because this is just who she is, being kind of like the mother figure in the moment, kind of being like, hey, like you can't just abandon this. You can't just think of yourself in this moment. You have to go warn them about what's happening. And like, so much so that he listens. I love it.
Yeah. No, and we'll talk about the little spiel she gives to Ezra later, which I think is brilliant. But very much like something tying this back to Andor, like specifically with season 1 and the first half of season 2, there was this like it felt like often there was this vacuum in quality rebel leadership. Mon's not quite ready to leave the Senate yet. Luthen is Luthen, who just kind of uses people and just like kind of does what he does. And Saw is a maniac. And it like got me thinking like, who is like at the best this time, or just generally like the most consistent best rebel leader? And Hera is like top of that list.
Yeah.
It's Hera and Leia. But like even Leia's like 14 right now, same as Ezra. Right now, it's Hera Syndulla who's holding this ship together, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and like the little flutters in my heart, and I'm not like a big, I don't go primarily to Star Wars for this part of it, but the flutters in my heart every time Hera calls Kanan love is just like, oh my god, we're gonna be taken on a journey with them in this series, and I know how it ends, but like it's already, you can see the like Beskar type bond between the two of them.
Yeah.
And it's just so special.
It is. And you don't know that whole story yet.
Yeah.
So you're like, what, like, are they together? Are they like, they want to be together? Like, you don't know actually, but that makes it so fun because you're like, oh, like, I'm sure we're going to find out more about that. We kind of do.
Yeah. I mean, the ambiguity kind of, I think the ambiguity heightens the excitement just because they don't, as we kind of find out, like they are not sure either, you know, like it is like, it becomes, you know, apparent. But I agree. I think when Hera comes in, like, she immediately has one of the strongest presences in the show of the main characters off the bat. I mean, everyone brings their own thing, and every one of these characters ends up being indispensable to the show. But yeah, massively enjoyable character in my opinion. You know, I think the way that she sort of through her we see in Kanan, and we learn about Kanan what we can't learn from Kanan himself, because he is still very closed off and very traumatized, you know, and hurt in many ways, you know, which I think is very, very cool to see.
Something that also happens very early in this episode is once Ezra gets on that ship. This is a trope in Star Wars that they can do it as many times. They can do it until the friggin' shocks come home, and I will never get tired of it. I will never get tired of this trope, which is you have your sheltered, maybe not sheltered, but like very like a local, you know, often orphan kid protagonist in Star Wars who's lived on one planet most of their life. And the minute they see what else is out there, that is a magical experience that I don't think I will ever get tired of. You know, obviously Luke taking a first steps into a larger world, like of course leaving Tatooine on the Falcon, and then Rey does it on the Falcon with Jakku. Anakin kind of does it with Tatooine on the N1 Starfighter, but even that's not emphasized as much. But Ezra in this episode of that, I'm in space and I'm about to die. I mean, even with the about to die stuff, like this kid in 14 years has not left the planet and hasn't seen what else is in the galaxy. And, you know, not as much as I remember, but this season is mostly relegated to Lothal. But even so, we go to Gorel, we'll go to Fort Anaxes, we'll go, you know, above Mustafar at the end of the season. This kid is, you know, seeing the world and the galaxy around him. And that always gets me. That always gets me.
You could even say he's seeing a whole new world. No.
Stop it.
Sorry, that was low. That was low hanging. That was low hanging. That was fruit so low hanging it was touching the ground.
Or as I like to say, guess I'll go fuck myself.
Well, I'll forever love Connor for that sound.
Infinite mileage. Actually, you know, wait, we're not going to do this yet, but Jacob, pretty soon I will get the opportunity to genuinely have a reason to play that clip. You know, the one we've been using forever in this StreamYard?
Yeah.
Because it's at the end of this season. But anyway, yeah, no, it's a magical moment to me. And yeah, anything else before we go back down to Tarkin Town, which I want to talk about a lot because I think it's really interesting.
I think first first off, Zeb and Ezra. I have two short asides. First off, Zeb and Ezra. I forgot just how much of a menace Ezra is in season 1, especially with Zeb.
Yeah.
Like, they don't even meet each other, and they're already like ready to take the gloves off and throw down.
I mean, don't you forget the next episode is basically prompted by Hera being like, "You fuckers gotta get off my ship."
Yeah. What is that? Fight or flight? That's the one where it just.
Yeah, that's that. Yep.
Oh god, dude, fighter.
That's right after Droids in Distress. Yeah. What's the second one?
And I think something that I forgot about was that Ezra is low key flirting with Sabine in this case.
Oh yeah.
Like, my name's Ezra. What's yours? And I forgot the little sort of romance. Like, I definitely think they went in the right direction by not entertaining this. This was not something the show needed, and I think they worked.
And I remember Dave talking about it.
Not that.
Like,
what did Dave have to say? What did Dave have to say?
Dave was talking about, and I'm not sure how early or late into the development they decided this, but he was like, I wanted to show a strong friendship between people of different genders who are that's not romantic in any way.
Yeah.
And he was pretty adamant on that, which, sorry, Ezra Bean's shippers, that's what happened.
I mean, it works because like that's such like a 14-year-old boy move. Like,
oh yeah,
totally believable. But I just like I always don't like it just because I'm like, oh, I love them so much better as friends, almost like such good friends that you're almost like siblings. Like that's like my favorite dynamic in Star Wars. So, but yeah.
Yeah, no, well, yeah. And it blends into like this family dynamic. Obviously, like there's this like nuclear family sort of archetypes that they're all fitting into. The mom and dad, the 3 siblings, the cat, which that's also confirmed by Dave has said in the past. If R2 is the family dog, Chopper is the cat.
Makes sense.
Everything Dave says about Chopper is so amusing. Like he was talking about, this was an interview I saw at Japan. No, I wasn't there, but I saw it online. But where he was talking about, he was saying like, yeah, I guess I'm putting all the crew from Rebels back, and I guess I'll put Chopper back in. I'm like, dude, you voice him. Why are you this? You voice him. That's you.
Is there footage somewhere of Dave recording Chopper's lines? Because like,
no, but there friggin' should be.
I would
pay for the raw audio.
Forget the going to a different, now what we know is going to a different galaxy twist. Forget the world between worlds twist of the final. The real biggest twist of Family Reunion and Farewell is the title card and Dave Filoni as Chopper. That rocked the world when that came out in 2018. I remember that specifically. But on to Tarkin Town. First of all, I'm going to leave this incredibly cryptic for Jacob. I like now that we know that Tarkin Towns are the second worst thing named after Wilhuff Tarkin.
Ooh. I don't want to think about that.
Yeah. Actually, Jacob, this doesn't spoil anything. Really. Remember the Gorman Massacre in Legends? We talked about this on a previous episode of In a Galaxy.
Somewhat, yeah.
Where Tarkin lands his ship on the protesters and stuff like that. In Andor Season 2, they canonized that. But they call it the Tarkin Massacre instead.
Yeah.
That's actually another thing I love that the show does. Obviously, we don't see Tarkin yet. This show is a great, like, not retcon exactly, but like explanation, sort of, quote-unquote explanation, like build up to why Tarkin is running the show in A New Hope.
Yeah.
Why he gets to talk back to Vader. What is, like, we saw a little bit of him in Clone Wars, but this is Tarkin. He's already cemented his reputation, but building his reputation in universe, but building his reputation to the viewers of exactly why he is so bad, why he's so evil.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, we get the Tarkin town. Kanan and Ezra take the blasters of the Jago. I love that little moment in Tarkin town. And this is sort of when the Rodian comes up to Ezra and says, thank you so much. And he just goes, I didn't even do anything. This was all them. And I don't know. It feels like the first moment when he starts to realize there's more to life than looking out for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's another thing I like about this episode is that we get like 6 different, Luke has he meets Obi-Wan, and then that's like an aha moment, and then he has I want to go, and then of course there's nothing here for me now, I want to go with you to Alderaan and learn the ways of the Force and become a Jedi like my father. That's his call to adventure moment. Ezra has 6 call to adventure moments, and they all count equally.
I mean, to me it's really more it's very reminiscent of Cassian in season 1 of Andor, but condensed into one episode. Or condensed into a double episode, because because it's for the
an episode
kids,
that is as long as a standard episode of Andor.
Yeah, we can't have an entire season of Ezra deciding whether or not he wants to go back to his old life or to be one of the heroes. That wouldn't be fun. But I mean, I think
I'm now just imagining Kanan saying, Ezra, don't you want to fight these bastards for real?
I think it would be really funny if there was in some universe, some parallel dimension, there was a version of Rebels where they could, say bastard and swear and I don't know. That would be, I don't know. I think some of us might get a kick out of that.
But I have a message for everybody. Fuck the Empire. Ezra instead of Marva this time.
Yeah. I'm glad they didn't do that though. I'm glad they didn't do that. I think we've been over that, but it works better. Yeah. And I mean, the thing that I wondered, I know that the holocron is a test. I know that Kanan, it's implied that Kanan wants Ezra to find the holocron, but I also think that it's no coincidence that it's only Ezra's been in the Ghost for many hours at this point. Presumably, they've been zooming around space, hyperspace. It's only after he has that one moment, a small moment. It's only after he opens his heart and mind a little bit and he starts reflecting on his life just a little bit. It's only after that he feels the holocron calling him. I thought that was a cool touch. I like that.
Yeah, it's and to add on to your point, it's not like on a table somewhere. It is in Kanan's room, which Ezra is implicitly not allowed to go into, in a cabinet that implicitly Ezra's not allowed to open. He has to seek it out. Yeah.
And he hilariously still has that Ezra mentality of just clearly I'm feeling some otherworldly force some otherworldly force and sensation that I can't explain is inexplicably calling me to this object. It's I just need to steal it. Clearly I just need to steal it. That's still his mentality. It's still his mentality. Even he pickpockets Kanan's lightsaber, for crying out loud.
And Kanan doesn't notice it, which is the funny part.
I feel like he probably does, bro. He probably is just I'm gonna follow him and get it back.
The imps don't notice the holocron.
There's no way he doesn't notice.
The imps don't notice the holocron, and that's because, of course, Ezra walks in like he belongs. They're so fat and satisfied.
Yeah, we got to get to the Wookiees.
Complete the speech here. Before we get to the Wookiees, I just want to say that there's that line again. Another there are 2 lines from Hera. First, we're a crew, a team, in some ways, a family. All of Rebels flashes through my mind in that one moment. And of course, there's no way I'd stick my neck out this far. Who does that? We do. Boom. Just gets to the very core of it. And then, of course, if all you do is fight for your own life, then your own life is worth nothing. We got to. I'll just say that this is around where the episode break happens, and I think it's stupid that they have an episode break in this. I think it should be both together, honestly. But
I mean, it really was broadcast as 2. but it was sold on like iTunes and Amazon Prime as
one.
So I watched it as one originally. That feels.
I think
like,
I watched it as one as well.
That feels natural to me to watch it as one.
But I'll just say for part one, not that we have to divide or anything. Like the Zeb imitating a Wookiee is the
that was good.
Shit is the funniest shit. It is. It is a the imps are dumb, but they're not that dumb.
I mean, those could be.
I mean, they could be. They theoretically could be, but like, yeah. It's yeah. Just yeah. Yeah, and of anything either of you have for part one before we jump right into part two.
I'm good. I gotta pause for like 2 seconds. Hold on, it's gonna close the door.
Problem.
Okay. I just want to say that the hairless Wookiee line has lived rent-free in my head for 10 years straight.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the hairless Wookiee. Yeah, I just want to get one thing out of the way, just because, of course, retroactive continuity stuff is great. I love this stuff, especially with Rebels and Andor and how they feed into each other and stuff like that. Of course, we get Agent Callus, and I forgot temporarily that he was from the ISB, which means I think y'all know what I'm going to say.
I think I do.
Has he had to deliver a thesis, please, to Leo Partagas? Timelines match up. When are we getting animated Anton Lesser? That's all I want to know. Calibrate your enthusiasm.
Such a good line.
Love that guy. You don't know that line, Jacob, but you'll know that line soon. Partagas is. I love that guy so much. Yeah, but obviously at the end of part one, Ezra gets captured, and the Ghost crew will turn around and do exactly what Ezra said there's no way he would do, which I think is just fantastic writing.
Yeah.
Specifically the way, and of course, not all of them were particularly enthused about it. It was a 3-2 vote, but when Zeb said he left Ezra, like he Ezra was captured on his watch, the way Hera says "Gera Zeb Aurelius," like he was a kid who got his hand stuck in who was caught with his hand in the cookie jar, is the best thing ever.
I love that. Again, it's early on establishing all their dynamics. Like they are their own little family in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the older brother.
Yeah. And then of course we have our start of the bit that I like. I just think like it's had a life of its own, the fandom, and like I feel like this is what like the only thing from Rebels, like this it's happened a lot with the prequels, obviously. Hello there, I have the high ground. Like lines that get memed to death, and like they're kind of funny until they're not, which is like the Ezra as Jabba the Hutt sort of thing. Like that was funny, don't get me wrong, but like then everybody started saying it, and then like Amon, I love Amon, is funny, perfect Ezra actor, don't have any like beef with her or anything. Then Amon starts saying it, and then everybody starts saying it again, and then like it's less funny to me now than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was a really fun like piece of lore at the moment. Him just like saying like a name that he recognized in the moment, but then it just became like, okay, enough.
Yeah, it's what I'll call from this day on like a Bantha syndrome.
I mean, listen, I still say that because it's hilarious.
Oh,
but
it's funny, but like then everybody started using it, and then it's like, yeah, come on. And then everybody starts asking Tim to say it on stage, and it's like, yeah. And I sound like Jared right now. But yeah, the other like big thing that happens while Ezra's in the prison is what I think, again, Andor Rebels Dyad is the Nemec manifesto of this show. This is Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. I regret to report that both our Jedi Order and our Republic have fallen, with the dark shadow of the Empire rising to take their place. This message is a warning and a reminder for any surviving Jedi. Trust in the Force. Do not return to the Temple. That time has passed, and our future is uncertain. Avoid Coruscant. Avoid detection. Be secret, but be strong. We will each be challenged, our trust, our faith, and our friendships. But we must persevere, and in time, I believe, a new hope will emerge. May the Force be with you always.
And I especially love how they play part of that message. And
Yeah,
at
they
the
play
end,
part
they
of it,
play
and then they play
they
all
play
of
the
it.
whole thing over like that closing. Like that is
yeah.
so it's so good. I'm getting like chills.
Rebels and
talking about it.
montages, like
Yes.
the montage at the end of Twilight of the Apprentice, like never forgetting that. The montage at the end of Family Reunion Farewell. Of course, you know what show also does montages very well? Andor.
I'm thinking about those last moments of the
dyads.
ooh.
Yeah, you know it with the Force healer and with Perrin and with
you know.
Yeah, if you know, you know. This season. Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, and like that line, that's the other thing like I love is of course we saw Obi-Wan about to record the message in Apprentices. We never actually knew what it was until now.
Yeah.
But I love the line like we will each be challenged, our trust, our faith, and our friendships, because of like it keeps being recontextualized with every Jedi we know survives.
Yeah.
Every time we know we see a Jedi survive, Ezra and Kanan and freaking Gunji and Lyco Strata, who Jacob hasn't met yet, but I like him. I like him a lot. I like that Lyco kid. He and Chris Jacob. Yeah, interesting pair. But yeah, and of course the incredibly unsubtle. In time, a new hope will arise. Okay. All right, we know.
I think this might be the single episode, if we consider this one episode, with the most title names in lines of the show, if that makes sense. We have the future of the Force,
the Spark of
Rebellion, which of course Callus says that, and we have A New Hope. And of course, I don't know if there's any other that can say they have three.
And of course, at the end, where Kanan says, with Ezra's potential training, I have great hope for the return of the Jedi, which totally happens. I have a feeling that the Force has awakened. Gee, guys, this really was a Last Jedi. Anyway.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Be careful, the Empire might strike back. We can stop now.
We could do this all day. And of course we have, I'm sure your parents must be worried sick. I don't have parents. Boy, what magic 4 words can do there. We'll come back to this throughout the show in season 1, in season 2, in season 4. I'm surprised we haven't gotten more with Mira and Ephraim by now, honestly. Like there's a bunch of stuff. I think it's because probably like I don't know exactly why actually that we haven't, like there's so much like stuff from Rebels, like extraneous material that could be made that just hasn't been. Stuff with Mira and Ephraim, and the other one for this episode is, or not this episode, the next episode is, why haven't we gotten anything about the genocide on Lasan? That seems like it'd be like a huge event that people might want to cover.
Yeah, but you definitely can't cover it in a show like Rebels, though.
Oh no, I'm not saying. I'm not saying in a show. I'm saying like in books or comics format.
It's gotta. Like we gotta wait a while though, because we just did get Andor season 2, and I'm still recovering from that.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what we're talking about in Andor season 2. You don't even need to see it. You know what we're talking about.
Yeah, but we like you don't but you don't know.
There's been hints.
You know,
we'll find out soon. We'll find out soon.
It's suggested very heavily in season 1. It's Yeah, and of course we have our first glimpse. I believe this is our first canonical glimpse of Kessel, chronologically, like in terms of release. I think this is it. Because season 7 of Clone Wars, obviously after this, Solo is after this.
Yes.
Yeah, on screen. This is first, which is crazy to say, but
I'm a little I'm a little sad that Kessel is no longer an asteroid like it was in the old EU, because I think that's a very cool idea. But
it is a cool idea.
I love Kessel. I love Kessel in this. I really do.
The half dry, half lush planet. While I was researching for this episode, that's a George idea for Kessel. That's George's idea for Kessel. Pablo Hidalgo confirmed that that's a George thing.
It's a very well designed, very well executed in this show.
Yeah, and of course, maybe my favorite moment of this. No, my favorite moment of this episode. Care to let me in on the secret? Kid, I'm about to let everyone in on the secret.
Dude, this moment is
And
just
of course,
magnificent.
and the igniting the lightsabers is great on its own, but adding to it, all troops open fire on the Jedi.
Oh,
It's Callus's reaction to it that sells it. David, we could have a whole conversation about the problematic nature of whitewashing a character voiced by a black actor, but David Oyelowo as Callus, what a great performance throughout the show, and that line specifically, my God.
Yeah.
It is like, Callus has never seen a Jedi. He thinks the Jedi are probably all gone.
Yeah.
But to see somebody who so confidently wields a lightsaber like that, is it's just a landmark moment of the show. It's the bang that the show needs to set it up.
Yeah. When I first started watching Rebels, I don't know, I must have misheard someone talking about it or something, and I thought before going into it that there were no like Jedi in this show. I thought I was going into like a straight like, oh, like maybe there's some Force stuff, but no Jedi. But as like, there are hints obviously, but as soon as he whips out that lightsaber, I'm like, I'm all in. Like I love when we get a break from like that kind of stuff, but like they did it so well that I wasn't even mad. I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the weight of that moment, they really the show did such a good job of impressing, what that meant. And then I think as the show goes on, I think on the rewatch, after we learn more about Kanan and what he's been through in his sort of emotional journey, we realize what that means to him, to Hera, to the crew, the Ghosts. But even in that moment, just watching this for the first time, like I remember just being blown away.
Yeah.
I mean,
the raising of the lightsaber and then of course extending it in that like in that like gesture pose and all that kind of stuff, like extended out right like the Jedi of old. It's such a it's mentioned several times, but like it's very interesting how the situations are so dire in this show that many characters have a sense of nostalgia for one of the bloodiest wars fought in galactic history. Like they have nostalgia for the Clone Wars, which, we saw how fun that was in the show. So, I mean, for us it was, but like, for people involved. Yeah, it's a landmark moment. And of course, and Steve Blum's right after that, the also rent free in my brain delivery, everyone into the container. Like that entire sequence, like I can recite by heart just because it's such an iconic sequence, and I don't use that term lightly. Like really, I also love that like he sees Ezra do something like kind of looking like Force sensitive. And it's like, and Callus goes, "Oh, a master and apprentice. That's what it must be. That's what it has to be." Yeah. And the final thing I have for this episode is two final things I have for this episode actually is the first Jedi you ever seen, sir, to the stormtrooper to Callus in the pipe and then came down. That's Clone Wars humor, and I admire it. I admire it so goddamn much.
Yeah. Bro, I forgot
what droid humor.
Yeah. I forgot what a diva Callus was in this. I mean, to say nothing of like brutally killing one of his own men for asking a question. Like the thing where he walks it, he's like, well, Jabba. The thing where he walks right up to Ezra, leans right in his face, like he's gonna say something, and then just brushes something off his shoulder and walks out of the room without saying anything. Like I forgot how sassy everyone is in this show. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, it's
especially
fantastic.
Kanan and Callus. Oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah. The other thing I was gonna mention, what was I gonna say, is when Callus calls the Inquisitor at the end, we get our first hint of the Inquisitor theme, which is so good. I will heap mountains of praise for this show's music in the future, but like truly the way it incorporates original trilogy themes, and of course when Clone Wars characters return like Ahsoka and Rex, it'll build on their themes from Clone Wars while also developing its own iconic music for these characters. It's a Herculean task, and the Kiners make it look easy.
Yeah.
And they're like quality themes to the point where like maybe my favorite moment in Ahsoka is they find him, Sabine finds him on Peridia, and immediately they hug and we hear dun, dun at full blast dun 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 dun, dun, and I just like start crying every time.
Yeah.
Like it is that release, of course, the thematic importance of like they found him and like this arc's getting resolved finally after 5 years and all that kind of stuff. But like when you think of what this guy's been through, when you think of and and even now, but of course at the end too, his theme represents the weight, weight. You know, like the Luke Skywalker, not the Luke Skywalker, but like the Force theme, which first represents Luke Skywalker, starts on a minor chord and then goes to a major. Like that hope is spreading. Ezra's is the opposite. Starts on a major chord, goes to a minor. He wants to hope, but there's so much being thrust upon him.
Yeah,
my music theory brain geeking out a little bit like there. But I've been looking at, there's a document I've been looking at, which is like I'll put in the description if anybody cares about this. It's a complete catalog of the themes and leitmotifs from all the Star Wars films, excessively analyzed by a professor at Tufts. So it's really fascinating to watch, and it's incredible. It's comprehensive as hell. It's like it's over 100 pages long. It's like it's incredible. It's great. It links and everything. It's beautiful. Yeah. Anything that either of you have for this landmark first, Elsia, have for this landmark first episode of Star Wars Rebels before we get on to the jaunt that is Droids in Distress?
Nope.
Jacob?
No, I mean, I think, yeah, this is such a phenomenal opening episode for Rebels. I think it definitely feels a little bit different watching it now, you know, but it undeniably hits all the right notes, and it's just such a joyful expression of what the essence of Star Wars is all about, in my opinion. You know, with Ezra, you know, having these experiences, meeting these people who are going to be important in his life, you know, making decisions, learning to make, you know, selfless decisions. And I mean, as well, just to end with Obi-Wan's message, it's not the very end, but to hear that again, I mean, thinking back to Revenge of the Sith, you know, thinking back about when Obi-Wan made this is exactly what Obi-Wan was making this message for, his own act of faith and hope, with no certainty of what was going to happen in the future, is unknowingly, you know, 15 years or however many, 14 years later, he's sort of laying the path for Ezra and Kanan. That's beautiful, you know. That's beautiful. Beautiful episode.
Yeah. I think we should get on to Droids in Distress, which I call the second pilot. I think it's mostly because I think I saw Spark Rebellion way later than I saw Droids in Distress. So for a long time, I thought this was the pilot. But it does, like, it is the first 20-minute episode.
It does feel more like the first two, like Spark Rebellion really feels almost like its own thing. Like part of season one, but it really is, you know, an event.
Yeah.
You know, like announcing Rebels, announcement, rolling out the red carpet.
Although
you know,
I also think that this episode kind of feels like an event in itself too.
Yeah.
But
and then I kind of feel like this feels like the first, like, quote unquote real episode, you know, like just like, okay, this is what season one is gonna look like. You know, it's not all, you know, ultra high stakes. It's not all, you know, serialized with each episode exactly leading into the next.
Yeah. This episode, what I find so interesting about this episode is this episode feels like a love letter to classic Star Wars. If there's one adjective I'd use to describe this episode, it's classic, and here's what I mean. Between the heavy usage, and of course Rebels always uses this, but like uses this more than this episode at least. Between the heavy usage of the Macquarie concept art, repurposing it into Lothal, and, you know, the Star Commuter and the RX series droid from Star Wars, and certain other characters who we may not run into down the line, who are the first named characters who are introduced in A New Hope. Like there is such a and I mean this in the best way, like a vintage Star Wars feel to them. Like this episode, you know, it came out in 2014, but I think it could have been made in 94 or 2004, like easily.
Oh, yeah.
Like might not look the same, but like it feels like here's what it feels like. Jacob and I covered this in a past season of Star Wars in the Galaxy. Jacob, this feels like I feel like the episode should have been different. Instead of when the Rebels card comes up, instead of the infamous theme, we should have heard "Stepping softly in a danger zone." This is the canon episode.
This does
of
feel like
Droids.
the spiritual successor to
No weapon
Droids. Just
in my hand. In trouble again. Yeah. That's what this is. This is another Droids episode. I can't believe I didn't realize that. That's very funny. Speaking of those droids, I gotta say, quick preamble that I was gonna say, I love Minister Tua. I want to talk about Minister Tua later, but where is that translator? Coming, Minister. Come along, R2. The writing for this episode and the performance by Anthony Daniels, I think, is some of my favorite of all time, but like of the new canon specifically. It's this and Rise of Skywalker that I love from C-3PO. Like, I don't know, it's something like C-3PO is just so well written in this episode. It just feels so. It feels like the closest C-3PO has gotten to that classic feel of the original trilogy since the OT. And it's the droids as an introduction to this, like as the Star Wars fans way into this episode, fits so perfectly because you don't have to create an adventure for them. The droids are the adventure.
Yeah.
Any thoughts both of you have about C-3PO and R2-D2 and their role in this episode?
It was very nice to like see them again and to like see them like kind of like again, like you're just kind of going throughout the galaxy and they're kind of just there. And like it was like a little like familiar, like, hey, those are my friends. That was nice.
Yeah, I found it a little bit jarring this time around. Yeah, I think the first couple times I watched, I was just like, yeah, they show up. Just kind of like, what do you mean? How the hell are they here? What are the odds? But I do think, it's about grounding, especially for the, and I think this worked on me when I was, gosh, I've been 10 or 11 watching this when it came out. Grounding this entirely new cast of characters, this entirely new planet, this entirely new, there's new everything, grounding it with something known and familiar.
Yeah,
I think in that way it very much works. And I don't really have a problem with it because R2-D2 was on it. C-3PO was completely oblivious. C-3PO was just as always, just being a diva and making a fuss. And R2-D2 was on a mission, and R2-D2 knew it was happening.
That's actually the one confusing thing to me about this episode that I think could have been a little explained a little bit better is what exactly were they trying to do? Because they seem to have, and I quickly like figured out my own opinion of what was happening, but like from what I understand, I think 3PO, as 3PO does, was trying to maintain the facade as well as he possibly could.
Hmm.
And calling the Empire
called the Empire.
No, but I think that's the reason that he did that. I think he called the Empire because, and it was risky, and I think it was a dumb move, but like, I think because that's what an Imperial droid would do in that situation.
To completely jeopardize the mission, though, I think he is not, we know that C-3PO has been subject to memory wipes and
but he recognizes Bail Organa at the end.
He does recognize Bail. But I think C-3PO is not all the way there. Like, I think that the memory wipes, it seems like he does not have the same awareness of the circumstances and of what he's actually trying to do the way that R2 does. I'm not sure exactly. Because even at the beginning, he says secret. Remember, in the beginning of the episode, when they're on the transport, he says secret mission. What are you talking about? What secret mission?
Yeah.
So I think he is having a different experience of reality than R2 is because of his memory wipes.
And I think this is probably what it is that he didn't bother to tell 3PO. Bail didn't probably didn't bother to tell 3PO. Probably because he knew he would blabber.
Yes, exactly.
But R2 knew, of course, which is why R2, and now I'm thinking about like with A New Hope, message? What message? Yeah, no, that makes a lot more sense to me now. but yeah, no, secret mission. What secret mission? But just classic C-3PO dialogue. There, you see R2? Here is an astromech who understands etiquette. Which is the funniest thing ever in retrospect, but it made me sad that we're already 3 episodes in and we still haven't seen Chopper enter his war criminal era.
We're getting there, though.
I love that little crime against humanity. Truly, one of the most dangerous characters in Star Wars. you can put a sock in it, Vader. It's also interesting because the interaction between 3PO and Chopper is instantly 10 times funnier once you realize that they'll meet again in over a decade under very, very different circumstances. AKA a court-martial for somebody who also didn't do anything wrong. Where C-3PO basically has to tell Chopper, shut your trap, man. You're making things worse for your mom.
So good.
Very funny. Yeah. And of course, we get our main hook of the episode, which is that what the rebels are stealing is a direct relationship to Jeb's past traumas, and of course, the revelation of yet another Imperial genocide, which I think is a great hook. T7 ion disruptors, quote, those were banned by the Senate, and as I mentioned in the summary, as we know, once the Imperial Senate rules on something, the Empire has to go along with it. Isn't that right, KX security droids? That's what they are. They're for security only. The people of Gorman can tell you that. Yeah.
Can't say any more about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was going to say, anything, I'll open it up to the floor about the revelation of the massacre, the genocide on Lasan. I thought this was incredibly artfully like revealed.
Yeah,
I think they did that trickle of information. They started peeling back the layers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, oh no, I forgot what I was gonna say. No, it's good because like it's so early on to start to understand that like, oh, like all these characters have backstories that are so much more complex than you maybe would have thought when the series started.
Oh.
And again, like you don't know all the details, but now you know that like, oh, this happened and he's been carrying this with him for all this time. And you know, like, oh, this is why he's fighting against the Empire. Like everyone has their reason, and that's
everybody has their own rebellion. Yeah. Yeah. I think the reveal is so great, and I also really love how Hera tells Ezra, because it's such a mother to son conversation. I feel like I wrote it down. Do you know what the T7 ion disruptor does? Well, no, Zev knows, because that was what the Imperials used on his people when they cleared his homeworld. Very few Lasats survived, and none remain on Lasan. So do me a favor, cut him a little slack. Do you think he could do that? And it's just that, like, you know, it's those moments of like Hera, you know, that's one of her greatest strengths. It's her volume of empathy.
Yeah.
And it is what makes her such a great leader, and it is incredibly utilized in this episode. Like I found myself tearing up a little bit at the time. It's just so well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, I wrote my notes. I'm like, I want to see, but like I'd love to see a depiction in a book or comic or even a show or something like that of the genocide on Lasan, Callus's involvement in it. I think it'd be really interesting to look at that. Obviously, you know, Callus gave the order to use the disruptors, which is another thing I forgot about this episode that's revealed. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I would love to see actually that from Callus's perspective.
Yeah.
To be like, you know, because again, alluding to season 2 of Andor, but not saying anything specific. It's so interesting to me to see like, what are you thinking about in that moment where you give this order to do this terrible thing? Like, are you like, is it like, are you even thinking at all?
I don't think he was.
Yeah. Or are you just giving an order and then like you don't realize until after the fact what you've actually done? I want to see that.
Or some don't realize at all. And like I've heard like one of the big steps on the way to genocide is that dehumanization. You don't want to instinctually kill people you see as equal to, so you have to make them less than.
Yes.
And I think
definitely got to see this now. At least it's from his perspective, and even like to how they got to that point of like, I'll do this, and it is what it is, and maybe he walks away from it and doesn't think about it again for a while.
Yeah. Wait, you ready to bring the pain for this?
No.
Uh-oh.
This is all done. This is a story, but it's actually with a frame device around it. And that framing device is him telling Zeb on Lyra San after the events of this show.
Well, that's when I leave. I'm done. That's all I can take.
Yeah. Let Ahsoka has a flashback episode that we do with World Between Worlds and stuff like that. Let's do it. Ahsoka season 2. We know Zeb's in it. They're not gonna do it, but like, could you imagine? And then we can have anyway. I'm not gonna do that, but I'm not gonna poke the bear with that. I'm gonna delete this from the episode, and then we could have the whole disc. Oh, the show's called Ahsoka, and they did an entire episode about Zeb. What? Anyway. I'm gonna delete that, but couldn't not think about it. But yeah, no. Obviously, this all comes to a head on Lothal. We get, as I called it, Zeb and Callus's meet. Not so cute.
Yeah.
It's incredible. This episode is incredible once you realize they basically end up together.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, but like that's the thing. It's the arc is slow. It's such a slow burn over the course of these 4 seasons.
Yeah,
and it's and you can't imagine it can end up at the point, but it does. Yeah, and they have the duel with the bow rifles, which Callus took from a Lasat he defeated.
Yeah,
which is also some great stuff right there. Around this time, I want to discuss. I want to show you both if you haven't seen it already. Maybe one of the greatest Star Wars posts on Reddit of all time.
Uh-oh.
So there's a point in Callus and Zeb's bow rifle duel where Callus is on the ground and he has to pick himself up and resume the duel with Zeb. It looks a little bit. Give me a second. I unfortunately the GIF's not available, but I think you both know what it's talking about. And Callus moves so fast.
Yeah.
In that one sequence. How fast you ask? I present to you this fast. This is a Reddit post calculating the speed and acceleration of Agent Callus in this episode.
Okay, so how far does he travel?
So, ignore all the math. He accelerates from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just under 0.4 seconds.
Oh my god.
Which is 3 times faster than your average Formula One car. Incredible. This is what Star Wars on the internet is supposed to be for.
There you go.
I love this so much. I will link this down in the description. I got a lot of things to link in the description.
Wait, what is it? Can you scroll back up to the top? I want to read through this afterwards. The post is titled
I'll text it to
Inaccurately Calculated.
Yeah, inaccurately calculated the speed and acceleration of Agent Callus and Rebels Season 1, Episode 3, Droids in Distress.
This reminds me of that time someone calculated the speed of Gru in Despicable Me, and they determined that he was 9 feet tall and could move faster than the speed of sound. Like, I mean, that's the thing about animation. Sometimes it's very stylized, and sometimes that means things don't quite make sense if you look at it too closely.
But
Sometimes you just got to take it as it comes.
What I love about this is that
Rebels.
this is not like a Neil deGrasse Tyson thing where he's like, actually, this wouldn't work. No, this person is actually like dedicated to be like, okay, if we look at the pixels on this screen, it's beautiful and it's so stupid.
It's
I love
perfect.
It.
It's perfect.
But yeah, and then we get this intense duel. I know why you fear those disruptors. I gave the order to use them. And then, of course, Zeb, understandably, of course, gets furious. But, what does that anger make him do? He gets erratic. He sees red. And then he loses. Something, anger not controlling you, blah, blah, blah. Jedi lessons and all that. Callus nearly killed him. And then Ezra, after seeking a Jedi moment for all of this episode, finally gets one. And that's honestly like why is another reason why I think this is the second pilot of this season, is because Ezra has some subtle usages of the Force, but the first outright one, the first clear as day one, is right here. Whereas the first one whereas Spark of Rebellion is asking what Ezra could be as a part of this family, this episode is asking what Ezra could be as a rebel, and most importantly as a Jedi. And I think that there's a beat, and then of course Zeb gets up and he says, I bet you didn't think that was going to be how you saved your first life. Nice job, Jedi. Which is a reference that only Meg will get right now. Yeah, that's the second. I've now referenced the second thing Jacob hasn't. That's Jacob. Wait for Skeleton Crew. There's a moment that in episode 6 of Skeleton Crew that reminds me of this episode. Moral of the story: you don't shape your heroic moments; they shape you. Yeah. Anything either of you have for the duel between Zeb and everything that happens on Lothal, but the duel between Zeb and Callus.
I freaking love this duel. It holds up so well. I mean, obviously we have, building throughout the episode sort of Zeb's emotional investment with the T7s, the Ion Disruptors, and learning more about his backstory and, the unbelievable pain that he has endured at the hands of these weapons and at the hands of Callus in particular. And then it all kind of comes crashing out in this fight, like the dam burst. It's so intense. It's just delicious to watch. I think the camera motion and the way they do this crazy kind of bird's eye sweeping shot to lead into it. It's just that honestly might be the best camera movement or quote unquote camera movement that we get in any of the Star Wars animations, because they do that from time to time. It is I really like it, and I think when it becomes about the bow rifle and the honor guard and everything else, one of my favorite moments from Rebels for sure.
Yeah. I also remember when I first watched this being hooked on the line, only the honor guard of Lasan may carry a bow rifle. Mostly because I think it was such so many new concepts in a Star Wars show that we'd never we didn't have any semblance of an idea what that meant. But Steve Blum just said it like you'd say anything else.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford, you can type this shit, George, but you sure can't say it. That's what that reminds me of. But yeah, and then of course we get our little epilogue with the episode of the Kanan meeting with Bail Organa. Bail Organa. Not salty still. I love you, Benjamin Bratt. Just anyway.
Hey, recastings are hard. Recastings are hard.
Yes, I know.
They're never fun and they're never easy.
Yes, I know.
I feel your pain.
Jim Smith is also, not dead. But yeah, it's a great little wrap up to the episode. And of course, the simplest gesture of kindness can fill a galaxy of hope. Isn't that a Jedi saying? Safe travels, my friend. I've heard, and Meg, please confirm this for me. In the Mask of Fear, Bail, one of Bail's first prerogatives is trying to keep the memory of the Jedi alive.
Yeah,
He's incredibly devoted to that.
Yeah, and trying to not let what they fought for disappear. The Empire he already knows is going to go to every single effort to kind of erase them from history, and he's kind of trying to in these very early days trying to prove that the Jedi did not do what they're saying that they did. And of course no one listens to him, but
yeah. But and I remember at the time when I heard about that, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I wouldn't have necessarily guessed that for Plo Koon. But thinking about it now, with the context from Obi-Wan Kenobi, which remember was only 4 years before this. 5 years before this. Still, it was only 5 years before this. And of course, having Obi-Wan in his back pocket basically makes sense that he'd use it. I think he figured out who Kanan is as well, I'm sure he got the intel from R2 anyway. And of course, ending it in the pose that his daughter would take a mere 5 years later. So it was 4 years ago. Either way, and you're ending in the pose with inserting the chip into R2, the same pose that his daughter would take 4 years later. It's a great episode. We'll focus on the Imperials later. For now, show me what you have on your Rebels. Which, by the way, this episode is such a great standalone episode. You want to know how I know? It's because this episode was adapted into an episode of Lego Star Wars Droid Tales.
Really? I did not know that.
So I watched this series a few years ago. This was made around 2015 or so. It tells a Legoized version of what happened directly after Return of the Jedi. Literally the next day. It's a goofy story and almost certainly not canon, but the bulk of the episodes are C-3PO's retellings with Lego funny stuff of the prequel and original trilogy, but stuffed in there because it's new. And Rebels and The Force Awakens were the last time they did any real huge promotion for in marketing for Star Wars. They did it. C-3PO also did a retelling of Droids in Distress, and that was an entire episode. And it worked incredibly. Obviously you knew it was Rebels and all that kind of stuff, but it didn't feel and let's throw this in. It felt oh yeah, this is a representation of the adventures 3PO and R2 had in between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. It just felt perfectly stuffed in there, and that's it, and it's that encapsulation of it, and that's why I love it. Anything either of you want to cover from this episode before we start to wrap this puppy up?
I think I'm covered.
Yeah, I think I'm good for this episode.
Yeah. So
conclude.
Overall thoughts, I think we all can say that this is again, disagree with me if we all want, but this was an incredibly strong start to Star Wars Rebels, starting off with a bang, especially I think it's really important because, and again, I'm not saying I hate the season at all, but there are this season 1 takes its time to build up to bigger things. So I think it's important that we start with this very strong establishment of the characters, the tone, story, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That we do get. I think that's going to be it for this episode of Star Wars in the Galaxy. Next week, no surprises here. More Rebels, Fight or Flight, Rise of the Old Masters, and Breaking Ranks. Episodes 4, 5, and 6 of Star Wars Rebels, meeting the Grand Inquisitor Zara Leonis and stealing some Yogan fruit. And possibly stealing a TIE fighter, I don't know. But we still don't really know about that one. Sources vary. I'll hand it over to Meg now. Meg, where can everybody find you? Thanks so much for joining us on this incredibly long episode. Where can everybody find you?
Yeah, I am over on Blue Sky these days at Meg Dowell. And that's where I post all of the things that I do. Mainly, my favorite thing to do at the moment is host a Star Wars books podcast called Now This Is Lit. where we talk about Star Wars books, and I get to talk to authors, and it's very fun because they can't tell me all their secrets, but I can convince them to tell me some of them, which is great. It's a celebration. Canon, legends, doesn't matter what the book is. We love it. So check that out if you're into that sort of thing. I occasionally also talk about the Darksaber and Rebels because both are very important to me. Oh, Bo-Katan also. How could I forget? Yeah, that's usually where I'm hanging out. So
I will say I've been very behind on Star Wars books, but there's one book that I'm so intrigued by and I'm like really excited about. I can't wait to like once I know you get like often like stuff ahead of time, and I'm so excited to hear your thoughts about. I am so excited about The Last Order.
oh yeah, it's gonna be good.
I like Jacob, The Last Order is the first major Star Wars anything that we are getting that takes place after the events of The Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, okay.
This
The
is Star
final- the
Wars'
final
first
frontier.
foray into
This is-
the future.
This is Star Wars'
Before
final frontier.
Starfighter,
That's so
before the New
exciting.
Jedi, or before anything, this is it. I am like thrilled about it.
I'm ready.
And it's about Finn and Janna like tracking down stormtroopers or like people who are in the process of being turned into stormtroopers and through that whole indoctrination process after when the Final Order and First Order falls. Like it's an incredible premise, and I'm so excited they're finally doing it.
Yeah, I
Finally,
can't wait.
like going here 5 years out. Yeah, you can find us on Blue Sky again. Like Nick said, this is it's the good Star Wars place right now, or like the comparatively at least. You can find us at inagalaxypod.bsky.social. You can find me everywhere. My link tree is linktr.ee/_OGFan327. You can listen to us on all the platforms, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Specifically, you can. It's been a while since I've done this. I'm rusty. Epic Confrontations. We are recording our next match very soon. That will be Andy versus Goose. Andy, they're getting a 1-point advantage because they won our coaxium run that we held at the beginning of the year, and so that match is going to be very exciting. And I think until next time, may the Force be with you always.
Always.
Always.